Hello everyone, it's your girl Tinuade of Style by He. You're welcome to another beautiful tutorial. If this is your first time here, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for sticking by. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to draft and sew this beautiful top. This top is really stylish and cheeky, so by the end of this tutorial, I'm sure you'll be able to make a beautiful built-up collar, and also how to draft a princess dart, not only for the front but also for the back, and lastly how to make a very beautiful hourglass shape. I'm sure you wouldn't want to make this top without the hourglass effect, because there's this kind of beauty that it adds to the built-up collar and to the overall look of the outfit. So if this sounds like what you're interested in, let's jump right into the tutorial. So I'll be starting with the back first, and this is me taking my zipper allowance. I took 2 inches, but I am sure I won't use up to that at the end of the day. And at the upper part of my paper, I'll be marking out 3 inches into a straight line. So I didn't know my camera wasn't capturing what I was doing, but don't worry, I'll just explain the lines I have here. So the first marking I made on the starting line there was my neck width, which is 2.75. Then I went ahead to take half of my shoulder measurement, so I marked it. Then I went down with 1 inch shoulder slope, then I connected it back to the neck width. Then the next line I have there is my bust line, which is my bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I went ahead to place my tape on the starting line and marked it out. After the bust line, the next line I have there is my waistline. Remember, front half length and back half length are not the same, so that's my back half length. Then from my back half length, I went ahead to take 7 inches. Yes, that's the length of the blouse, and also my hip line. So I'll go ahead and label the lines for clarity's sake. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to create my armhole line. How do I do that? I'll transfer half of my shoulder measurement on my bust line in order to create a straight line there. After that, I'll go ahead and impute my dart, which is half of our bust palm measurement. So I'll go ahead and impute half of my bust palm measurement on my bust line, on my waistline, and on my hip line. Then I'll connect it into a straight line. Please take note of the placement of my tape. Now that I have my straight line, I'll go ahead and take 3/4 of an inch dart measurement on both sides of the darts. So I'm marking 3/4 at that side, then I'll go ahead and mark 3/4 at the other side. So I'll connect the darts to 1 inch before my bust line and 2 inches before my hip line. Now that I have my darts, I'll go ahead and impute 1/4 of my bust measurement on the bust line, 1/4 of my waist measurement on the waistline, but on the waistline I'm going to minus 0.25 for snatching effects. Then on my hip line I will impute 1/4 of my hip measurement plus 4 inches. This is to create that hourglass effect. Then I'll go ahead and connect my markings together. So after connecting my marks together, I went ahead to add sewing allowance of 1.5. You can actually do whatever works for you. So after adding my allowances now, the next thing I'm going to do is to go off from the hip line by 4 inches. This is to create the hourglass effect. So I'll go ahead and mark the 4 inches, then use my curve ruler to connect like so. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to mark the midpoint of my armhole line. Yes, just as you see me do, I'm going to go ahead and mark the midpoint of my armhole line. Then I'll come out at that corner by 1/4. Yes, so I'll go ahead and create a curve there so that we can have our armhole curve. So again, to get our princess dart, I'll go ahead and connect the midpoint of the armhole to the 1 inch mark before the bust line that we made earlier. Now that we are done with the princess dart bodice, we'll go ahead and create our built-up collar. So we'll be starting off by going up from the neck width by 1.5. You can actually do 2 inches if you have a longer neck, but on the average 1.5 is okay. I will also mark the 1.5 on the zipper line, just as you see me do. Then I'll go ahead and extend the neck width up to meet the 1.5 inch mark that I made, like so. Afterwards, I'll go in away from my neck width into the shoulder slope with 0.25. Please pay very close attention at this point. So at that my 1.5 inch mark, I'll go in by 1/2 inch. Then I'll go in with my curved ruler to connect the 2 points together. And after connection, this is what we have. Again, I'll go to the 1.5 inch mark that we made at the zipper side. I'll go down with 1/2 inch. Afterwards, I'll connect that point to meet the other point that we marked. So our back built-up collar is ready. So I'll go ahead and extend it into my zipper allowance. So I'll go ahead and extend my bust line out and my waistline and take my zipper allowance again. You know I said I was not going to use up to the 2 inches that I marked. So I'll go ahead and take 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance. So now that I have my 1.5 inch zipper allowance, I'll go ahead on my waistline to take out 1/2 inch from it and connect it to the 1.5 inch zipper allowance that I made. This is to take out any form of excesses that might want to cause a bulge around our zipper parts. Now our back piece is ready, so I'll go ahead and cut out. So after cutting out, this is what I have. And there's another thing that is worthy of note. There's the measurement we need to take because that measurement needs to align with what you have at the front at the end of the day. So you are going to take the measurement like so, and you are going to note the measurements. Okay, so I'll go ahead and measure it just the way you see me plate my tape, and I will note it down so that I won't forget. So after taking my measurement, I got 6.5, so I'm going to write that 6.5 down, then set it aside so that we can start the front bodice. So I'm going to be starting off the front bodice now by marking 3 inches away from the edge of the paper, which should also be serving as my starting point. So again, from the starting line, I went ahead to mark my bust line, which is my bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. Then my half length is the third line there, and remember our front half length and back half length are not the same. So my front half length is 17, and as for the back I use 15.5. Then from my waistline there I mark 7 inches, which is my hip line and also the length of the blouse. So just as we did in front, I'll go ahead and mark 2.75 for my neck width. I will also mark half of my shoulder width. I'll take 1 inch shoulder slope, then I'll connect it to my neck width. We are basically doing everything we did at the back. Then I'll go ahead and transfer half of my shoulder measurement under my bust line too, so as to get our armhole line. So after that, I'll go ahead and draw my nipple line and my under bust line, which is the distance between your shoulder and your nipple point, and the distance between your shoulder and your under bust. So having marked my nipple line and my under bust measurements, I'll go ahead and impute my dart, which is half of my bust palm measurements, just as we did at the back. So to the center front, I'll be taking 0.7 inch darts, and to the side, I'll be taking 1.25 darts. Okay, and I'll be marking those measurements on my under bust and also my half length. I'll go ahead and mark 3/4 of an inch before my nipple point. That's going to be the apex of our darts. If you're a bit busty, you can go ahead and mark 1 at that point. So I'll go ahead and connect these points together just as you see me do. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to extend this dart legs to 2 inches before my hip line. So the next thing we are going to do now is to mark half of her armhole. Yes, just as you see me do there, I'm going to take half of the measurement of my armhole, and I'm going to mark half an inch on both sides of my midpoint. After which I'll connect my midpoint to the 0.75 inch mark before the nipple point that we made earlier. I will also connect the half-inch marks that I made at the 2 sides to that point. So if you have watched to this part and you haven't subscribed, kindly do so now. It's the least you can do for me to be part of the family and to continue to enjoy this kind of beautiful tutorial. Also, if you haven't given this video a thumbs up, kindly do so now. This should help YouTube to push my videos to those that might need it. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and extend that part out by the inches of that I took out. Remember, we marked half inch up and down of that midpoint. So that means we are taking 1 inch dart out. So if we are taking 3/4 inch up and 3/4 inch down, that means it's 1.5 inches dart. So that means we are going to be extending that part out by 1.5. But in our case, we use half inch and up and half inch down, which is 1 inch. So we will extend that part out by 1 inch. This is to curb any form of shortage that might want to occur at the armhole part when joining. So the next thing to do now is to take 1/4 of our bust measurement, 1/4 of our waist measurement minus 0.25, just the way we did at the back for snatching effects. Then 1/4 of my hip measurements plus 4 inches. Then I'll connect them so that we can have our shape. To create a hourglass effect, I'll go up away from my hip line by 4 inches. Then I'll connect it to the hem, just as you see me do. So those parts that you see me mark like that are the parts that we are going to cut out. We don't need them at all. So between quarter of her bust mark that we made and the one is extension that we did at that part, we are going to create a curve that's going to serve as a armhole curve. I'll then go ahead and add my sewing allowance. Now that we are done with the bodice, we go ahead and work on the built-up collar. So I'll go ahead and mark 1.5 inches on top of my collar width there. Then I'll go ahead and mark half an inch beside the 1.5 inch mark that I made on top of the neck width. So since we are going to extend our neck width up, so this is me making sure that I have my neck width straight, which is 2.75. So beside the neck width there, I'll go ahead and mark 0.25, just the way we mark it on the back piece. Remember we marked half an inch at that point, so I realized that it was more than half. So this is me retaking it so that we can have it accurate. So the next thing we are going to do is to connect these 2 points together. These connections should be done using a slight curve. Afterwards, I'll place my tape on the shoulder line and mark 1.5 inches. Then I'll connect that my 1.5 inches to the 0.5 inch mark that we made on top of the neck width. On our new line we just drew, I'll go ahead and mark 1 inch on that line. You can do 1 and you can do 1/4, and I'll connect it to my bust line. Please don't do anything less than that your bust line. This is to enhance ease while wearing it. So we're almost as good as done, and the next thing we are going to do now is to impute our bust dart. And how do you know what to use for your bust dart? It is the difference between your front half length and your back half length. For my back, I used 15.5 inches, and this is my front, I used 17 inches. So the difference is 1.5 inches, and I'm going to place my tape on my bust point line and measure 1.5 inches and connect the line to my apex of my dart, just as you see me do. So we are good to go, and this is what we have. So when you make yours should look something like this too. So this is what we have, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and cut out. So I had to stop the cutting because there's one thing I almost forgot. Remember when we were cutting the back, we noted a value 6.5 around the shoulder and neck parts. So we are going to cross-check the front if we have the same value. Yes, because that part must be the same. So in my own case, I still have 6.5 in front, but in case there's disparity in yours, you see that half we took at that part where I touched, then you can go ahead to either increase it or reduce it. But at the end of the day, just make sure the same value you have at the back is still what you have in front. So in order to close our bust dart, I've gone ahead to cut through the princess dart so that we'll be able to close our bust dart, because without this, the front length and the back length would not be the same. So this is me securing my bust dart with paper tape, and at the end of the day, I'm going to throw the line again. You can see there is a difference, yes, at that part. So I'll go ahead and redraw the line so that I can have a proper shape, after which I'll go ahead and continue cutting. So if you found this tutorial helpful, kindly subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and turn on your notification bell so that you'll be notified when I upload new tutorial. Thank you. So on that same part where I reduced the line, I noticed there is a shortage at the seam allowance part, so I'll go ahead and fill it up with this pieces of paper so that I can redraw the seam allowance too. So here we are. I'm all done with the cutting and we have our pattern set. You can see how it's beautiful. We have the front and the back. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place them on our fabric and we'll cut out. So this is the fabric I'll be using. It's just 2 yards and that's what I'm going to be using for this style. So, and I'm size 8, so that will guide you when you want to make yours. So I've gone ahead to place my pattern on fabric and I've cut out. This is my center front and I cut it on fold. At that part I added half, at the hem I added half, at the neck and shoulder parts I added 0.25, and at the armhole part no allowance added. For the side fronts I added half an inch at that and at the hem, then every other part I didn't add allowance. So I've also gone ahead to cut my lining and I used the main fabric, yes, for the center front lining. Yes, so this is it, and I've also gone ahead to add my light interfacing around the neck parts. So you can decide to add your interfacing all over your lining. That totally depends on you, but because my fabric is a bit on the thick side, so I decided to add only around the neck parts. So this is my back and I've gone ahead to add half an inch at the dart of the side back and at the hem. Every other part no allowance added again because we've already added it on the pattern. So at the center back I added half an inch at the hem and half an inch by the dart. At the shoulder and the neck part I added 0.25. At the armhole no allowance added, and I went ahead to notch my waistline so that when joining they will match properly. So this is my side back lining. Yes, so for the center back lining I used the same fabric and I went ahead to add a light interfacing around the neck part and I left 0.25 for turning so that it won't be bulky at the end of the day. I hope you understand. So now it's time to start joining. So I'll start with the back and this is how I'm going to place it. So I'll place it like so, making sure that the notches I made around the waist parts are matching. So I'll join with half an inch. Remember, that's what we left. Then I'll keep that aside and repeat the same thing to the lining. So as you can see, these are my front pieces and I've gone ahead to cut layers of ST. That's what I gum on the bust area. This is just to accentuate the bust, and I cut the layers of ST using my bust line to my under bust as a guide. So I'll proceed to the sewing table and place my pieces like this, making sure that the waist lines and the under bust are matching. Then I'll go ahead and sew with half an inch. I'll repeat the same process to the lining parts. So I'll go ahead and sew now and bring it back to show us what we have. So after joining, this is what we have. You can see the lining part. I've gone ahead to join it and I've open pressed my seam. This is the main bodice. This is the main one. I have also joined and open pressed it. So this is the front pieces too, both the lining and the main fabric. So I've also gone ahead to join them with half an inch, and this is what we have. You can see that the bust area is a bit accentuated because of the layers of ST I used. So this is the lining part and I've joined it. I've notched it under bust part so that it can be relaxed. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now is to use the lining to turn the neck part, and I'm going to be doing that using hemming gum. This is totally optional. So far you stay your neck part, I'm sure it will still be relaxed, but this to further give it a very beautiful outcome at the end of the day. So I'll go ahead and stitch my neck piece with 0.25, and I'll also be stitching the hem with half an inch. Then I'll bring it back to show us what we have. So after stitching, this is what we have. You can see the neck part is already stitched with 0.25, and I've also gone ahead to hem the lower part with half an inch, and I also top stitched it. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to notch the neck part so that it's, by the time I turn to the right side, it can be all relaxed. So after turning to the right side, this is what I have. So I'll go ahead now and give it a good press around the neck and the hem by the side. So I'll set it aside, and I'll show us what it looks like later. So this is my back piece, and my zipper allowance is 1 inch. So I've gone ahead to measure 4 inches from the neck part there, and I sew it. Yes, I did it for both the lining and the main fabric. So I measured 4 inches from the neck and I gave it a stitch. So the next thing we are going to do now is to install our zipper. Make sure that the zipper you are using is this open and close type, and be sure to leave half an inch allowance at the hem for turning the lining. So I'll go ahead now and install the zipper. So after installing the zipper, this is what we have. You can see that this zipper is neatly installed, and you can see where he stopped. So he stopped 4 inches before my neckline, and you can see the open-ended zipper that I used. So that's what I mean by open and close zipper. So the next thing we are going to be doing now is to turn the back with lining, and we are going to be doing that using the half inch we left at the hem part. Yes, so I'll go ahead and stitch it down with half an inch. I'll top stitch it, then bring it back to show us what needs to do. So after turning the hem with half an inch and top stitching, this is what I have. You can see the way it's looking. So this is what we have. I've also gone ahead to close the zipper part by 4 inches from my neckline, just the way I did on the main fabric. And the next thing I'm going to do now is to give that part a cut. Yes, I'll cut it on the lining. I will also cut it on the main fabric. This is to enable my zipper to relax, and number 2, so that we'll be able to use the lining to turn the main fabric. And as you can see, I did all the cutting with my zipper still closed. So after cutting, you can now open out your zip, then pick the fabric from the back and use the lining to cover it, like so, just the way you see me do. And you're going to follow that stitch that you did on your main fabric to fix your zipper. So that's what you are going to use to turn the zipper parts. Just follow carefully. I'm very sure you will understand. So to close the zipper parts with lining, you are going to start your stitch from where the zipper starts. That's 4 inches before your neckline, and you are going to run into the hem of the blouse. So another thing that we're going to do is to close that part with 1/4 of an inch. So I will do the stitching, then bring it back to show us how the back looks like. So after stitching the collar part with 1/4 of an inch and closing the zipper part, this is what we have. I've gone ahead to give it a very good press. So we are left with the 2 sides unclosed. So I'll go ahead now and close it with 0.25. So after closing it, this is what we have. You can see how beautiful it is looking, and both on the inside and on the outside. And I can't wait to see the outcome of this outfit. I'm sure it's going to be looking beautiful. So the next thing we are going to do now is to join the shoulder. Yes, so we're going to place the front part on it and join the shoulder just as you see me do, and we're going to be closing that shoulder with 1/4 of an inch. So I'll go ahead and pin it down. I repeat the same process to the other side of the shoulder, then take to my sewing machine to stitch down. So after pinning the shoulder, I will at the same time take my side seam allowance. I'll be taking 1/4. Remember, our sewing allowance that we left on the pattern was 1.5, but because I've used 1/4 of an inch to turn the lining and the body, so we are left with 1/4, and that's the measurements I'm going to be marking on the side seam. So I'll go ahead and take 1/4 on my side seam and take to my sewing machine to stitch on my side seam allowance and the shoulder allowance. Dun, 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 dun. You can see what we have. Can you see the blouse? Are you feeling this blouse? It's looking so beautiful, and I can't wait to fit it on. See the side seam. In short, everything is just giving, and I love what I'm seeing. So I can't wait for you to recreate yours. So I've gone ahead to cut my basic sleeve. What I did was just to increase the cap height by like 3 inches. This is just to give the pleated effect on the shoulder. So if you want a tutorial on this kind of sleeve, you can let me know in the comment section. So I'll go ahead now and stitch the sleeve so that I can attach it to the blouse. So I'll do it and bring it for us to see. So after facing the sleeve, this is what we have. You can see the collar sitting pretty. You see the zipper well installed. See the inside, very neat. So I can't wait for you to recreate yours, and please let me know when you create yours in the comment section. So thank you for staying to the end of the tutorial. It's good having you here. So if you haven't subscribed, kindly do so. Like, comment and share. So see you in my next video. Bye.